Well, I think I'm going hood up, brother.
Get it.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Dude. Last night of the trip.
I know. Sad. Another Oregon trip adjourned 4 times.
4 times since January of last year.
Yeah. That's commitment, man. You've officially won as being the friend that has visited us the most.
That's what I've been going for. Man, there's been like these pings of emotion during this trip. I would say like the first one for me was when Lisa and I ended our road trip and like got to the beach and saw you guys, and you guys had like a surprise birthday for Lisa. And then like seeing Forrest, like posting on my story today and seeing my dog Forrest like running down to the beach for his first time. There was something emotional about that too. I think going out to the beach today and like I just like took a little phone video of like you one-wheeling, the 2 girls walking with the drinks in their hand, and like the dogs just kind of like going wherever, and it was just like beautiful sun, rock cliffs in the background, a waterfall going onto the beach, and then like over dinner tonight, like there is much to be thankful for.
Yeah, dude.
In our friendship.
I agree. Yeah, and pairing that with just Oregon beauty, you know, and just like you were talking about, like pure magic, it feels like here, you know. But yeah, our dogs being reunited is so epic.
Mostly for us.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, cool, I recognize your scent. Stay away from my food.
And my toys and my humans.
Yep. Please do not bug me or I will snip at you. But yeah, that was the reunion was definitely more for us. But for those of you listening, I wanted to have our first repeat guest.
Come on now.
Boomer Bait back
That's
to the
right.
podcast. This might be a listening podcast, which you probably already do anyway, but this will probably end up being a listening podcast by the end because the sun is setting. We set our settings a little bit brighter.
It's like 9 p.m. right
It's
now.
9 p.m. It's crazy how late it stays light out here. Even in Denver, I would feel that way, you know, about how late it would stay compared to living down in Tennessee when I used to live down there.
Mm-hmm.
But by 9 o'clock, you've got like just a nudge of light left in the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool. I'm all about the long days. So, I mean, give me the long days, which I think we're 10 days on the other side of it, creeping back toward being short days.
Sad.
Summer solstice gone. You want to know something funny? Boomer and I didn't talk one word about exactly what we were going to be talking about on
Nothing.
the podcast. Like we literally like, hey, you want to record a podcast? We got the chairs, the mics, and the cameras. We sat down and cracked the beer and like didn't even say, are you ready to start? I just cracked the beer and pressed record.
Yep. I mean, and also like where we are right now, just on the Wheeler dock in the Nehalem Bay. This is so epic.
It is so epic. It is so epic. And it's a great way, I think, just for us to end this trip. Yeah, dude, I find myself even like getting emotional now. Like I'm just thinking about the memories that are made, that I know I'll be looking back on so fondly. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like why I get emotional, because I'm like already looking back on them fondly before I'm even too far into the future. Like my first like actual road trip vacation with my wife that's not like precluded by work, which asterisk, I still kind of came up here because of Realign. Yeah.
Does that really work though?
It felt more like play. We had a lot of fun with that. We had some fun. It might have been stressful at points, but It was fun. That was more of an excuse to come out here. But I mean, I think the reason I felt so comfortable like to sit down and just start talking with you is because, yeah, maybe I'm talking a little bit more podcasty right now than we would if we were, you know, sitting by a fire without a camera on us. But I just know conversation flows so naturally for us.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about, having our alignment days where, for the person that doesn't know what that is, that's like the days, the times where Boomer and I get together and we just kind of hash out what's going on in our life, going on in our minds. The more you dig to figure out what you want to do in your life, that doesn't necessarily give you the answer. It just gives you more clues as to what to do in life. And you kind of at some point just have to pick a path to go down. And sometimes that is a path that can lead to more pain and some peace, or more peace and some pain. And so Boomer and I love to have these times where we come together and do that. And but then there's times like, you even brought up to me, you're like, hey, like, if you ever get sick of doing, solo episodes by yourself, I'm your dude. Like I'll definitely sit here and talk about that. And I think honestly, you're the perfect person to talk about that kind of stuff with. You moved out to Oregon. And I think just being on the other side of, I don't know, just watching so many people come up here and like be affected by, we talked about orbits, like the orbit that you bring people into. You have your friend group back in Denver, but how many people? I feel like every single one of your friends mostly has come out to do something here, like brides and grooms from past wedding videos you've shot. I mean, me and Lisa, it's my 4th trip out here. There'll be many more. But you're someone that lives a life of, audacity is not like your adjective that you live by. Like you live by a different word, multiply. Definitely down to hear more about that. But I just feel like if there is going to be a reoccurring guest on this podcast, it's you.
Let's go, man.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful to have you out here. And you mentioned like Oregon, and people coming to visit. It's beautiful to, see my friends, but for them to experience this place, like, you talk about Iceland, how it feels kind of like a part of you. Like this place feels a part of me in some way, a distant place that I just feel like I belong to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just magic here, and it feels, it's so hard to describe, but it is like capturing magic in a bottle sometimes. The bay and the river and the mountains and the greenery and the beach, and you feel almost protected by nature, and you feel connected to nature. And I mean, this place, like if you are willing to listen, and if you make the amount of space to listen, it will speak back. It has a lot to say if you just sit and listen. And it has brought me so much freedom. So to be able to like bring people into that freedom, bring people into that magic, it's indescribable, man.
Yeah, I mean, you told me on a hike today, you said that you were flattered that I found so much like joy, and I experienced so much wonder like being
Mm-hmm.
here. A lot of people might think you being in Denver, Colorado, having access to all these mountains, it could harness all of those same feelings. You have the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, the skiing, you have the hobbies, the things to do there, but there's something about this that speaks to you in a different way. There could be people that could conjecture that is just by proxy of the fact that, the mountains were your home and that's all you ever knew. And you got to buck the system at some point and go for something that is different or feels right to you. But why do you think this place speaks to you as opposed to a place like Colorado? And not to say like you view Colorado as like disgusting. I'm sure you don't. But speaking to like that why a little more, if you can try to pinpoint it down, why it feels like nature like
Yeah.
surrounds you and protects you.
Man, it still feels like a mystery to me, which is hilarious because I'm gonna try my best to answer that, but I really just don't have the I don't feel like I have the answer at all. Uh and that's what keeps me like coming back and trying to figure that out is what is actually here that I need to be here for. I mean, there's it just feels like home, you know? It feels and not just like a place, but just like my heart feels truly at peace. Like I honestly feel like I had like an under little lay of anxiety being in Denver, you know, just like even if it's like 5%, you know, being around that traffic, being around just tons of people. What's up, my man? How we doing?
Got
But
a little
man,
fisherman walking by.
yeah,
We out here.
grumpy grumps.
Didn't seem too happy about us being out here.
Yeah.
He said, "Those damn city slickers."
Damn podcasters. I mean, there's story after story for the last decade that I could bring up that ties this specific geographical place. Uh, it was all pointing to this place in my life of songs that I've written and um, emotions that I've felt and weird, weird pieces of art that have all just like conglomerated over uh, a time that has just I don't know. It felt like I was led here, I guess.
Hmm. I think something the more that I do this podcast that uh, I I like to hone in on is those moments where like you feel maybe that dissonance of like there was like something lying under the surface in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now you're here.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people see. They're like, Boomer was in Denver and now you're out here. Do you remember a certain point where you were just like, we're doing it? And I actually don't know if I've asked you that before. Like, what was the moment where you're like, all right, I'm telling my parents, I'm telling Cody, I'm telling my friends this. I'm telling, me and Sarah are deciding that we're gonna do this.
That's a good question, man. I don't think I've ever actually. I don't think it was a one true moment, but it was. I think there was just a lot of little moments and little times that I would just bring this up to Sarah, or she would find me on Zillow, or
The
I,
first sign,
yeah.
Zillow surfing.
Probably that was
Yeah.
like the really first time that Sarah's like, seriously,
Yeah.
you know? Um, but man, we would do these like month trips where we would leave for a month out of the year, and always like our marriage was in the best place, my health was always in the best place, my mindset was in the best place, and it was like, man, like what is going on in Denver? So it was actually more about well, actually not more. It was the place that I was in was becoming almost confining, and I just wanted that freedom. I wanted that freedom with time and freedom with just the vastness of this place. Like you go on this beach and it's just like, especially at low tide, it's just insanely it's just overwhelming, you know? Like I just find that peace in an instant, you know, where it took so much time to like actually find that in Denver. And so, man, I I don't know if there's a time or place, but I started to connect the dots of what the things that were trying to come to the surface were finally all starting to like really come, and all the clues were just like kind of overwhelming, and it's like, okay, I get it now.
Mhm.
I get it, and this is what's I'm meant to do. And let's let's talk to Sarah about this, I guess, you know. Oh my gosh. Oh, holy crap! It hit me. It
Okay.
hit
All
me.
right. All right.
Okay. All right. Sorry, it took me a while. You might need to edit this shit.
I'm not.
Okay, I was in a counseling session
Mm.
with our amazing person,
Prestigious.
legendary person, Jonathan. And
He's gonna have to be on the pod at some point.
yeah,
I gotta
that'd be
get him on.
crazy. That'd be crazy. I was talking about what I was feeling in Denver, and I was talking about the PNW, and I was telling him all the clues, right? And he says this. He says, when you look at the animal kingdom and you look at a mountain lion, or you look at fish, or you look at any type of animal, there's a particular environment that they actually thrive in and other environments that they don't, right? So if you saw a mountain lion walking around the streets of New York City, you'd be like, what the heck? Like, consciously you would say, like, you don't belong here. Why are you here? You're supposed to be up there, right? And he looked at me and he said, do you think humans are all that different? And I think that was the moment that I really decided, like, I know I'm the mountain lion walking around the streets of Denver, and and everything in me was like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. You belong somewhere else. You belong on the coast. You belong in the vastness and freeness and beauty and magic of the Oregon coast.
Do you think, accompanied with that feeling, that there's any bit of like when you look back at Denver, if this is the right place, then Denver was the wrong place, and you spent 20 something odd years in Denver. Do you view that as wrong time spent? I mean, and of course, I think the easy answer is like, and it's okay if this is the answer. Like the easy answer is like, oh no, like that was the precursor that led to this. Like it was necessary in my story, and it was obviously necessary because it was my story. That is what happened. I was in Denver. But do you at all view Denver as the villain?
No, not at all. Maybe I did towards the end, like when that sun just was beating down on me, and I knew I just wanted to put on a hoodie, which is funny because Oregon coast is like hoodie weather, like
It is.
it's just every day
a lot, and it's July 2nd.
Yeah, dude,
Like
it's like every day it's just hoodie weather. So no, maybe I will say the cheesy answer. Like I met you, I met Jonathan, I met Sarah. I grew so much, so many opportunities, but it was just time. It was time in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing about humans. That's the crazy epic thing, is because in 4 years, in a couple years, and next year, whenever I'm, now something changes in me, right? It's said that every 4 years you drastically are a different person. Every 7 years, every cell in your body is completely new. It's regenerative, right?
Yeah.
And that might completely change. I might move back to Denver. I might move across the world. I don't know. I do think environment is very underrated, though. Like we look at the external circumstances of the job, the economy, the I don't know how much a house is, or what that's what people are talking about. Was like, you should probably listen to your soul a little bit, because now I'm fully convinced that a human has certain environments they thrive in and certain environments that they don't. Individual.
Yeah. And how would you say someone finds that?
I mean, tiny clues.
Which you were kind of talking about a minute ago.
Yeah. You remember in the Faroe Islands where I think I tried to hide this as best as possible, but we rolled up to this dock kind of like this. It was a bay.
Big dock with big boats.
Big boats, Radio Caroline vibes. Blue hour, very important.
Yeah.
Kind of like this, overcast, houses and lights all around. Boom, started crying. Just like uncontrollably. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I didn't even understand it. I did not understand. There was so many other beautiful views that we had that trip. No, didn't get emotional. This dock at this time with these lights and for some reason in these ships, whoa, you know. And I think I was like, what the heck? What is going on? Very similar place we're sitting at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It, I'm always thinking about the other person listening on the other side of this that like looks at somebody. I've been the person before that's looked at somebody like you. And let's say, for example, I'm living in a place where I don't want to live. I'm maybe doing something that I don't want to do. And I hear Boomer say, oh, like I saw a place that made me bawl. And here I am at 30 years old. And I'm like, dude, I have literally never felt that feeling before. And I'm also like, not enjoying what I'm doing right now. I think it's important to note too that like certain people have different emotional capacities. Like you and I are pretty emotional people. Our emotions scream pretty loudly, which is a pretty clear indicator because like the clue we're talking about, I believe, and correct me if you're wrong, the clue I think we're talking about is we are recognizing emotional resonance. And that emotional resonance is really easy to spot within us because we're pretty emotionally in touch. And so, if we just felt like if we weren't emotionally in touch, doesn't mean we're any less human, but maybe maybe it's just like a slight little thought that we have of like, this is really cool. Maybe we just say, holy crap, out loud. Maybe we see ourselves pulling our phone out to take a picture. Maybe
Nice.
that's what it looks like for the person out there that like, I'm just thinking about like,
Yeah.
the signs aren't always this like big burst of emotion that oftentimes you and I feel, that the signs are just emotional resonance being when you get excited about something, when something energizes you. And literally being energized can be as simple as pulling your phone out. Like if something motivates you to take a picture of it so you can remember it, that's worth noting, I think. And I think that that's a great place to start. If you find yourself like talking about it on the phone with somebody, for those people out there that maybe aren't as in touch like with their emotions, I think that there's so much intel, there's so much clues that are floating around in our life still, because your emotional capacity does not equal, how do I say that? Your emotional capacity does not equal your spirit's drive to live a life that is full and aligned. That like, you could have no emotional capacity and be really clammed up and still be called to live a really big life. And that's totally okay for your emotions to be like that, I think. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's yeah, and like anything, it's just practice, Like maybe start off with those little holy crap, this is beautiful. Pull your phone out, like, and then start to open yourself up even more. Like anything is emotional, and anything is a muscle, and emotional resonance can absolutely be learned and can,
Yeah.
it's just a powerful compass, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think emotional resonance is always there,
Sure.
regardless of how big it is.
Right.
Some of us are more in touch and can like see through that fog a little bit more clear. It's all just a clue going on. Like I believe we are mysteries. You can't pinpoint the exact why of why those boats, and that blue hour and that island like drew you to it, but it did lead you here. And even being here, it's still hard for you to pinpoint why, it just calls to you. And I think we're supposed to live in that mystery, like to search for the answer, even though I might ask for it, even though we might search for it in ourselves. That answer might never actually come. But I think maybe the better answer is what you said you felt by making that decision. you felt that peace when that low tide goes out and you're just standing there and this like, we were talking about the difference between this beach out here and like a Tulum beach or like
Yeah.
a Florida beach.
Yeah.
'Cause like this was, when you were talking about being flattered by me being drawn to this place. I'm like, dude, I think it reminds me of Iceland. It reminds you of Iceland. There's just something about the backdrop of the mountains and the cliffs and the movement of like the grassy hills. There's just something epic going on out there that you just can't quite pinpoint, that draws you in, that draws at least you and I in. And me, again, like by proxy of the fact that you moved out here, and I think it's pretty incredible that like, your decision to do this has affected a lot more people than just you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, our lives are supposed to be gifts, right? We're supposed to just give away our lives. And that can be done in a lot of capacities, right? Like we can make this Realign event, or we can make songs, or we can make videos, or we can make poetry, we can make art, we can make businesses, we can make relationships. It's all just giving back, right? And packaging these little gifts up and giving it to someone and saying, do you see it? Do you see it? It is like the whole, like that's the big mystery. It's the big mystery of life, which I believe is love with a capital L. It is just pure beauty of what we're also created in. But it's the same way with this place, like when people come to visit or when people see that we did this or whatever, okay, come to this cliff, come to this lookout point. I saw love here. Do you see it? Packaging up the gift. Do you see it now? Okay, all right. It's okay if you didn't see it, or it's okay if you come to this beach with me. I bet you'll see it there. I know I saw it. Do you see it now? Do you see it? Do you see the love and just nurture and beauty and vastness? How does it make you feel? It's like I felt these things. I felt the gift that I saw in my eyes, and it's like I want you to see it now. So and it's like it's so awesome because I know you do.
It's almost like what you're talking about is emotional resonance, perhaps at a deeper level, is this love with a capital L. And it's not just emotional resonance with yourself. It's this emotional resonance with this deeper undercurrent of love. It's this emotional resonance, as I talked about in the alignment experience, a resonance, a really interesting thing, a phenomenon that happens if you do the little like lick your finger and rub the top of a champagne glass. If it's the same size champagne glass next to it, it will begin to resonate at a different, decibel level, but the same pitch. Your emotional resonance can make others resonate, and perhaps feel that like undercurrent of love. Not to like go too deep with this, but like I'm something I've been like working on. I haven't told you this yet, but like my logical brain, I'm trying to like mind map out all of these words that we use all the time, like emotional resonance, curiosity, creativity, purpose, fulfillment, passion. Like all of these words can be really ambiguous. Peace, joy, happiness, and they're all kind of floating out there and we can kind of use them interchangeably. But I'm starting to kind of like mind map like this like world in a way of what it looks like for passion to lead to purpose, and what are the different avenues that you can come at passion with and stumble upon passion. And then what is the output of passion? Does that lead to your joy? Does that lead to your peace? Does that lead to happiness? And how does happiness connect to purpose? And so it's all these different things. And so that's me.
Wow.
Like, I think about these words that we use. Like it's interesting even we're getting the camera settings are getting dark, and that's okay. No, it's fine. This is a listening podcast. You guys can just listen to this podcast.
It's just dark.
Yeah. I don't even remember what I was saying. I'm just.
It's insane, dude.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I just want to try to understand my best ability what's going on in this world.
Yes, and we and it goes back to like the Eckhart Tolle. Like we're so limited by words. 24, you know. I was gonna say 24 words in the alphabet. Oh God, 24 letters, you know, in the alphabet, and AEIOU. You know, we really think we're gonna just try our best to explain, like we're going to try, but it's ultimately just indescribable. But I love the logical side and the engineering side of your brain coming out. Like people need that, dude.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, I need it. I mean, that's I think the biggest driving factor, and hopefully, you know, other people need it too. I feel like I could continue down this track of talking about like your reasoning behind coming out to Oregon, you know, turning it back to the viewer. And of course, I'm always thinking about that. But at the same time, like this is my last conversation with you before, you know, this trip's over. Where would you like to see this conversation go? What would you like to talk about? Like, I mean, I know we got cameras on us right now, but like, what's on your heart? Like,
well, it's funny. We really haven't talked about realign. And it's funny that we talked about alignment experience. We processed a little bit of alignment experience at a podcast. So it kind of feels the same way. Yeah. I think it would be fun to talk about realign a little bit.
I think it would be too. That's a good point. Realign was a digital online event that we hosted, like $7 just to like, you know, incentivize people to actually show up. It was basically free. We wanted people to be there. This is a mid-year reset to defy the drift that we feel, especially after the New Year's goes by, and we kind of just get back into our routines. We wanted people to feel a sense of ownership and power to take control of their year and realize they didn't have to wait until the new year again. That July 1st is just as good of a time to start over. Just as tomorrow morning, you know, is just as good of a time to start over. You don't need these hard stop dates in order to be who you are. That potential is always there, and so that's what Boomer and I did. And I road tripped out here for it. What do you think? What did you think about it?
I mean, every time we do something like this, it's just crazy to think that this was like a thought, you know. It was just an idea. I think you threw out the idea of like some type of online experience midway through the year. And to see it is just always such a joy and privilege to have an idea come to fruition, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like this man, I'm proud of us for seeing this through, for having the idea. Probably the majority of people would have just had the idea and just let it die, you know? But we not only had the idea, we executed it to the absolute best of our abilities.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, I talked about this, I believe, on two podcasts ago with Emma. And I was talking about the alignment experience. And I said that you asked me maybe a month out from it, we were like working on the workbook for the alignment experience. You remember this question?
Oh yeah, dude.
You said, "Hey, if I wasn't doing this, would you do it?" And I was like, you go first." And you were like, no. And you just like so fast, no way. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can say what I felt. Like, there's no way, yeah. There is definitely something to be said about doing something with someone, and it's a gift. I will say that, like, it's not necessary, but dude, hold on to those people when you find them.
Oh,
because
God,
it is a gift. It is resonant. It is good. There is something like not to be spiritual, but holy about like coming into contact with somebody that you can actually make something come to life with, because all too often, like you just hinted at, ideas come and they present themselves and they say, hey, here is something beautiful you could create. and then we kind of let them go. But when two people stumble across it, it's almost like it doesn't leave as quick. That there's more, I don't even know the word, like there's more ability for you to actually get it done. Like two, just the power of two. And so,
100%.
yeah, what were we gonna say?
I was just gonna say, this sounds super weird.
I,
We're two straight men here
we're very
sitting
straight.
on this pod.
Yes.
But dude, I kind of knew. I think from, let's say, 10 years ago, I was meant for some type of like partnership like this. I just thrive in collaboration.
Yeah.
And thrive when two people, maybe three, whoever, like a team, you know? Right now it's two. But like you're going after this, and then I'm working on this. And we're putting our heads together for this, and then it's just like bouncing off of each other. I feel like I work really well, and I tried to have like other collaborators and partners, and maybe I probably had a partner a part to play in those things not working out super well, but I don't know. I love collaboration.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Me too. And I think it's worth noting too that those failed collaborations, that was not a sign that collaboration wasn't good and important to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just probably made you, and I'm speaking on my behalf as well. Like you and I both entered into this like a little skeptical of each other, of like, hey, like, are you going to stick this out with me?
Yeah.
Because I've been burnt before. I've felt the same as you. I've entered into partnerships with people where people have lost interest, and you can feel it. It's like an energy shift at first, and then they say it. It's like, I'm just not as into it, but you feel it first, and you're into it, and you want to do it with them, and so that can kind of like put a bad taste in your mouth. But you like hold true to the fact, and I say that as like a word of encouragement to people listening, of like, if you feel a desire for partnership, don't let the first time you get burnt define that path.
Mm-hmm.
That keep seeking that out. For some reason, two people that pop in my mind right now are Laura and Mary from the Memory Poets, like wedding videographers. Just like how well they work together.
Yeah,
like I think they just hired Sarah to do a little watercolor painting for one of their couples.
Oh yeah.
But I just think like it's so cool to see them like this dynamic duo, even adding like Lisa to my website for wedding videography as somebody that would second shoot with me. There's always just this power in like a duo, John and Nick with their podcast, with their retreats and stuff. There's just something about the, not yin and yang, but the duality that people bring. Like, yesterday with Realign, bringing it back to Realign, you and I just feeding off of each other and in emotional moments and funny, awkward moments, like throwing random people into breakout groups.
Dude, wild.
I know.
I don't know if you know that feeling, audience, but throwing like 40, 50 people, just random strangers into breakout groups.
It feels like
digitally.
Feels like you're taking your foot and just like kicking it into their back as you push them into like a den of snakes, and you're like, survive. That's what it feels like. We talked about like, yeah, it was really cool to see something that we did come to life, but like, dude, I felt a parallel feeling of emotion to putting on the alignment experience. Not the same level, because again, it's a weird thing that we have this technology where we can be with people but not with people.
Totally.
It's so different having like the weight, and in a good way, the weight of people there at the alignment experience, or like speaking in person. But even without that, I felt this like beautiful emotion of like looking at all these people that devoted this time, and I see them all writing and talking about what has been aligned, what has been misaligned, and why, and like listening to us talk about agency and ownership. It makes me feel so good seeing that happen, and it makes me feel so happy, and just like I wouldn't rather be doing anything else right now than sitting in Boomer's living room with this overheated laptop with a fan on it, trying to make sure our little videos and our words weren't laggy. It felt so aligned, saying the word align can be so cheesy, but it did, and I just feel like I use it when I feel alive, and just that emotional resonance, that emotion hit. It's a clue. Again, that's what I felt. What'd you feel?
Yeah, it feels like we're on some type of path right now. Um, and that was just the next level, and and um it's in doing that will reveal the next step, you know.
Yeah.
And we really, it's so crazy with all of this. We really don't know what we're doing. We're just two dudes trying to like figure this out that have seen or felt little clues, and it's just like step by step. Okay, you want to schedule another meeting? Okay, we'll schedule that. You want to do another one? Okay, we'll schedule that. You want to, and it's just like we're stepping on this path together, and it's just so fun to see where it's gonna go, because I don't know. I just have a feeling we're gonna be looking back at these days,
Me too.
farther along in this path, wherever that is,
Man. There's those moments where a path feels like really lonely, and going in a direction that doesn't feel right, or sorry, I got distracted by what kind of bird that was. That's not what I meant to say. I'm beginning of the bird watching. It sounded like a duck, but it's like a pelican thing. No, you can go down the path that like it feels really lonely. Not that it doesn't feel right. It can feel right, but it can also feel lonely. But then all of a sudden, like the dam breaks, and like you look back, and like, you start getting rewarded in tangible, worldly ways, that like, you get the followers, you get the attendees, you get the monetary, value, you get maybe the exposure, you get the feedback from people. But a lot of time, like a lot of this journey
Yep.
has been super lonely. Like, dude, I don't know if you noticed this. I don't think one person shared anything about Realign to their story.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? I don't think we got one new follower because of Realign.
Yeah.
And there's like this thing that can come in modern day society where it's like, this wasn't worth it, or something like that.
Right.
There's those feelings of that. Did you notice that? Like, did you feel that, that feeling looking at it?
I think I had that thought. Yeah. But it was very brief.
Same.
Yeah.
Especially when accompanied with, like the fact of like, wow, that was really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And we did get text about it.
Yeah.
And I think that
it's a digital thing,
for sure. Like, there's only so much you can do.
Right.
And we gave our best to that, dude. Like, we made that seamless as we could. We leaned into the parts that we couldn't. We tried to connect the dots with it, and like we made an experience that we needed as well, and brought others to that. And it's cool that something that is a passion of ours can also lead to being a purpose as well for impacting the world. Passion is what brings us life. We enjoy talking about things that bring us life. Purpose is when it comes into contact with the rest of the world and impacts them. And I don't know. I guess I say all that because I'm thinking about like the bigger picture, and I'm like, it's cool to feel that, because I feel like it's not always going to be that way if we continue to pursue this.
Yeah. And I think that's, kind of what we were talking about of, what is fulfillment in the world and path of alignment experience,
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? Because it can be easy getting wrapped up into, why isn't this growing, or why are we just still feels like begging people to come, or why are we, throwing people into group chats and blowing them up. At the end of the day, I think it's just really, really important. I am becoming a better version of Boomer doing this. I am being able to teach is the best learner. Yeah. I am aligning and realigning in my own life. I'm becoming a better man, friend, husband, and overall human being, that's a win, dude. You know?
How do you think we balance that going forward? Because I feel that too, and I want to lean more into that. At the same time, we are aware that we want this thing to grow. And so
Mm-hmm.
even our whole strategy for this next half, which we haven't talked about, because we kind of got to go our separate ways, have some busy schedules going forward for like the time being. But like even our strategy for the next 6 months is like, okay, less emphasis on event,
Mm-hmm.
more emphasis on building the brand. Like there is that piece of it that like wants to build this thing still. And I feel like you said something the other day that you said there is a beauty and a creativity to building something
Yeah.
with this stuff. Can you speak into that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's famously Rick Rubin says the audience comes last, right? And I completely understand what he's talking about, because when you don't try to do something inspiring, you make something from the deepest part of you. And it turns out when you make something from the deepest part of you, it will resonate
Yeah.
with other people, right? And will probably attract, the masses. And there are purities in my creativity, especially my music, where, dude, I could care less about the audience.
Yeah.
And the external audience. I want my family to listen to it. I would love my closest friends to listen to my music. After that, whatever, out to oblivion. But I've also like I live in the gray, right? And so I understand too there's art in playing to the audience. There's art in growing the audience and thinking about uh, uh, what's the word? Humans and how they operate and what they might need or what might catch their attention.
Yeah.
Like that's art in itself too. And so yeah, like I've definitely fallen in love with that art, of playing that game,
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to talk about too, like, you say you care less if people listen to your music, Radio Caroline, it's for your family, audience comes last. Like that's a pure version of yourself. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, but that doesn't mean at some point you haven't thought about what if, or you haven't thought about like, checked Spotify to see if like how many listens you had, or, gone and looked at it. Like it's like and again, correct me if I'm wrong. I try to like look at, I guess I'm just peeling back the layer on it of like, thinking about the person that might be listening of it's easy to maybe say something where they're like, you're talking to me right now, kind of like having come to a resolution of something that's pure to you, where somebody listening might be like, oh, well, maybe this thing that is pure to me isn't as pure as I thought, because I have had these thoughts of like, it's felt super pure, but I have checked YouTube to like see how many views I've had. And so therefore I'm not as pure as Boomer and what I'm doing because I had these thoughts. Have you had those, at least those thoughts, which don't define what you're doing, but have you had those thoughts?
Yeah, I think so I've had Radio Caroline for over a decade, and absolutely at the very beginning, I was always checking Spotify. I was always checking views. I was always thinking, what if? I always wanted to, to, play live or whatever. But man, I can honestly say that at this album, it was 110% for me in my healing, and the lyrics just wash over me.
Yeah.
And it brought me out here.
Yeah.
And that was the point of that album. of this transitional phase of learning what legacy is, learning that I love the cold, and learning whatever. So, but don't get me wrong too. There are so many other things in my life that are analytic, audience driven, like my business, like my even my YouTube, maybe that's on the spectrum of like audience comes last. I 100% check views on YouTube. Multiply sound, multiply media.
And YouTube is just so they know, like that is a thing that you're doing as like a legacy, like I want to capture my life kind of a
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
And like you talk about it being on the spectrum, maybe not as pure as Radio Caroline, but on the spectrum, it's still very pure, but you are still looking at views.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But then you have like Multiply Sound, which is still a very good thing, but you're looking at metrics constantly.
Absolutely.
Like that.
I just posted a video. The point of it was to have as many signups and funnels and everything. And I was just talking to my partners, the Chapters boys.
Yeah.
And I was like roasting it. I was like, yeah, I didn't get to the word free within the first 2 seconds. I literally just sent that voice memo to them. I was like, this one's on me, guys. And it has like 400 comments on it,
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it could be better. I think the video was too long, or I went into the intricacies. I need to get to the point that it's free as possible, as close as possible.
Yeah, dude. I think this would be I feel like this would maybe be an interesting time to, not that it's about saying this to the public, but this would be maybe an interesting time to talk about, like in a soft launch kind of a way, like what I've told you about, like something that I've been working toward of, running across Iceland.
Wild.
That like, I've decided next March/April, sometime in winter in Iceland, which April's very much winter in Iceland, I want to run across Iceland. And, as you talk about like doing something because of the purity that you feel and the connectedness you feel with doing it, I analyze that decision of like, yeah, I just kind of want to do something really hard. And that's like the baseline of it. It's like, when I watched the documentaries of Free Solo, 14 Peaks, Project Iceman, those kinds of things. Project Iceman being the front runner of those, Free Solo maybe being the first one of this like epic feat kind of a thing. There's been this pull in me, this emotional resonance of like excitement or engagement or like I wish I could do something like that, awe that I feel. And then at a certain point, maybe around the time that I started this podcast, I just had this moment of like, well, I'm just going to go do something while I have the body to do it. And I'm going to do something that would actually probably kill me if I tried to do right now. But if I give myself a year, I think I can get to the point of being an elite enough athlete to run across Iceland, 352 miles. And when I watch those documentaries, I can feel this feeling that I literally ran my race, that I did something that was really hard, that somebody hasn't done before. But at the same time, I do sit there and I think about like, my friend Cody Combs is making a documentary. We're talking about how to get it out to most people. We're talking about the best social media strategy, for doing that. I think about like making a TikTok of like day 30 of training to run across Iceland, those kinds of things. I think about me bringing it up on the podcast. Does that mean, and I'm actually asking you this, does that mean that it's of non-pure intent? Do you think?
I don't.
Tell me, therapist boomer.
I don't know, man. It's a fair question. I think that's a fair question.
I mean, because you got our therapist Jonathan, who's also a runner, running the Leadville 100. He doesn't tell a soul, really.
Right.
It's going to be his family there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess my question would be like, okay, I don't think it's bad to do something with excellence, right? Like you saw me. I spared zero expense on that album. You
Yeah.
know, I was working with a songwriter. I was hired. I was going to the best studio in Denver, the best engineer that I know to mix these, and I hired the best photographer. You know, it's like you, and maybe for you, you want to make the best documentary. You have the best filmmaker that you know. You know, you're like trying to make the best type of gift, and um and I guess for that album, like I did my best, and you know, I don't know, less than 100 people probably listened to it, and I'm like totally fine with that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can honestly say I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
That album healed me in more ways than any other human knows than me. And that was worth it to me.
Mm-hmm.
All the money, all the work, all the songwriting sessions, all the vocal, like just trying to sing into this mic, the deepest parts of me, like everything was worth it.
I think something that I think about that begins to answer that question is like, yeah, maybe like in the now, I might like sometimes think about the metrics of doing that thing, of like running across Iceland. But I think the bigger picture, if I were to ask the two questions, what matters more to me, like the influence it has of being a great documentary on Prime or Netflix or Hulu, or like growing my Instagram following by doing something ridiculous that like, a lot of people do these days, like, so many Instagram pages grow just by doing something ridiculous. Um, if I hold that up against the fact that I did something that was really hard that I felt like I just wanted to do because it was something I wanted to do. And I can't give you a better reason than that. If I can hold those two questions up when I think about what I will look back on later in my life, I think
There you go.
I think I'm like, dang, dude, I would be so stoked to have said I ran across Iceland because it was really hard and I wanted to push my body and I wanted to see that I had what it takes. I wanted to put to test the power that was inside of me. We're always talking about power. Okay, well, let's just pick something based off the clues in your life. You're drawn to Iceland. You're drawn to audacity. You're drawn to different things. What's connecting the dots here? You're drawn to these documentaries. Well, you have the ability to. You have an incredibly supportive wife that thankfully says yes to almost anything that or not even says yes. She doesn't give me permission. She's my teammate in these things, which is a beautiful start to a marriage, I believe. Um, why not? Why not do it? And I think that is the kind of life I want to live. And yeah, I think in the moment something can be pure and good, and you can have these swells of ego. You can have these swells
Yes, that's a great way of putting it.
of vanity, of thinking about the other things that can come from it. But when I'm on a training run, for my next race, as I kind of escalate to training for Iceland, which I'm already doing technically, I when I'm running, I'm thinking about how good it will feel for me to do that. I don't think about the metrics.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a reason that I haven't done anything on social media, and I've been holding it close to me because it is something special to me.
Hmm. That's dude. Wow, you're good with words, man. Yeah, swells of ego is like actually a really good way to put it. Yeah, because okay, absolutely. There in the creation, I'll just keep talking about the album because that seems like the most relevant thing. Yeah. In the creation the the album, there were swells of that ego being like, wow, this chorus is catchy, you know. I could see this I could see this going pretty well, or this, whatever. And so yeah, there were swells of that, but then you said something really interesting. You said, um, like I want to be able to look back at myself and see a super, super powerful version of myself, right? And that is a beautiful thing because I can't tell you how many times, dude, I've been walking on that beach listening to Legacy Sound at full volume and just getting pumped. Just being like, damn, that kid knew what he was about. That kid was like discovering something beautiful, you know. There's times where I'll feel lonely, right? And I'll listen to Gray Part 2, you know? Working just a bit more, go hard, staying up all night, those stars, see it in my own eyes. I'll try to show you how I'm gonna chase this dream, you know? Like, that gets me pumped, dude. I wrote that. That's my voice. I'm seeing and hearing myself at a very powerful point in my life. And that gets me going to keep going. So that's powerful, man. I'm about that. If you're, you know, who knows? Who knows? Like I'm a year, you know, out from the lease, less than 100 listeners. I'm probably the most listened person on the album.
Hey, I listen.
But whatever, dude. Like I love it. It's not about other people. So, but
Yeah.
who knows what would happen? You know.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think we can get like a few more listens from, not that you care about it, but from the podcast. Go Spotify, Radio Carolines. Actually, we had some drinky drinks last night, and that was my first go to whenever we got back to the house and plugged in the box. That's so millennial of me to say. Well, we're losing some light here.
It's getting dark. We could honestly do this for another hour. So.
We could. I'm gonna ask you one more question. You got to get up early. You're driving up to Vancouver Island for 4th of July, and letting me and Lisa stay in your house for a few days.
That's right.
Road trip back down. Thanks again, bro. What a blessing. Again, that's like, you know, bringing people into your orbit. What a beautiful like effect of that. Like, me and Lisa's first real vacation, getting to celebrate her birthday on the way out here, you guys doing that with us, spending time with you guys, and then having like this time on our national holiday, you know, to be up here and experience this place. And it's even murmurs of us saying we're going to try to save up for like a beach house, you know,
Oh,
shoot. In the future. So with that though, I want to ask you a question. You felt clues when you were moving up to Oregon, and eventually you acted on them. And I'm fine with you taking a second to think about this, and you don't have to come up with an answer. But are there things inside of you right now that you're feeling clues about that you could see, to use the word again, swelling into a decision that would be audacious when you think about it now, but that would take you out of the mountain lion walking around New York City to be where he should be?
Damn. What a great question. Yes. And honestly, I pray to God that I continue to listen to these clues. That I continue to be aware of what's going on inside of me. And because these clues are really all we have, it seems like. They're small, but they're becoming louder. I think this place has definitely amplified them. And there's a lot of different avenues and ways I could go to answer this question. I won't say all of them because it could be a long conversation, but I'll say one that I think is scary for me that might actually seem pretty lax for a lot of people, but I'm scared, dude. I'm scared and I'm nervous, and this thing does not come naturally to me. But being a father, I would say I've been getting the clues. I've been a new album just came out from John Bellion, Father Figure, and it wrecked me, dude. And I'm curious to understand the magic of what it means uh to be a father to someone. And and with that curiosity is just like, I don't know, a lot of fear, a lot of nervousness, a lot of just like unknowing. So much has come natural to me, like I'll create the businesses, I'll get engaged, I'll get married easy, I'll move across the country to a place, like, dude, being a father, like becoming a father is like nerve-wracking to me. So I would say that.
It's interesting the things that are, people will look up to you and be like, wow, he had the guts to move across the United States. He had the guts to quit his job to go and do this thing. And they have 7 kids, and at the same time, you are sitting there like, damn, I cannot believe that they had the guts to do that.
100%.
We each have our things that are our power, or that we feel called to do, that bring us life. I think it's worth noting, firstly. And secondly, I'm excited to see that.
Same here, right at you, dude.
Hey, man. Yeah. I think it maybe comes a little bit more. I feel that fear, but like, I think it's a little bit more in my lane. Like, I think it's always been there. I think the older I get, the more aligned I get, the more I question life, which I believe is leading me more into alignment. The more I just kind of question, like, oh, did I actually ever really want kids, or was I told that I wanted kids? But I think in the root of myself, especially after making a quick documentary on the idea of it, it made me, that was a clue, that I wanted to have kids. So, bro, we've been all over the place. I like it. Hopefully this is an interesting conversation to listen to, guys. Boomer, dude, I love you, man.
Dude, I love you too.
This friendship is beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
I hope. I sometimes think, just because life can be really hard, I look at life and I'm like, I'll say to myself, I don't think I'll be friends with Boomer when I'm 50 or 60, just because, like, it's such a beautiful thing. And it's like, I feel like there's just been so many things in life where, bad things happen, basically, and good things don't last. But that doesn't mean that's my hope, that it ends there. It's like almost a sign that I hope that it does last a long time.
That's a good way.
I think about it. But I love you, dude. Thanks for taking the time to do this. I know you're getting up in like 4 hours. So
1 a.m. podcast. Let's go.
One audacious move. Our first repeat guest.
Come on now.
Boomer Bait on a dock. 2 dudes on a dock. Let's finish these beers.